Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this third live on behalf of Wines of Portugal. We have Luis Pato waving at me, so we have an exciting conversation tonight. I want to give you, hey, Luis, here you are.
Hello, how are you? How everyone?
Welcome.
Everyone is okay?
It's a great pleasure to have you tonight, Luis.
Thank you.
This is our third edition, our third live on behalf of Wines of Portugal, and we're going to focus on Baga, especially.
Okay,
and
great.
For those of you, I think people, Luis Pato doesn't need much introduction. He dedicated the best part of 40 years to put Baga on the map. I think he inspired people, inspired the industry and the sommeliers and the consumer. And by default, and also by merit, he's known as Mr. Baga.
Yeah.
So Luis, a great. I mean, we have in Italy we have Gaia, in France we have the Rothschild. They're great ambassadors for. And I think Luis is certainly one of the greatest ambassadors for Portugal. So welcome to you, Luis.
Thank you, dear Sil.
Luis, I wanted to. What I want to do tonight, before the questions start coming in, we want to talk about a little bit about historical context of Baga. Talk about viticulture, especially the evolution that you've seen through the last 40 years. Talking about terroir, talk about winemaking. Also want to talk about the future a little bit. But Luis, if you allow me, I'm going to give my own interpretation of historical facts of Baga, and I want you to later on you can review them and even add. But Baga is intimately linked with the region, Bairrada.
Bairrada, of course.
I think the textbooks that I have seen, the latest, the oldest textbook are from 1867. I've seen something from 1875, even from 1900s. Always talking about Baga and Bairrada, and talking about the color and the quality of the wines, and also this firm structure. So this is some of the old books that I was able to see. But the interesting thing is the highest genetic variation is from down. So people believe the variety is possibly has its origin in down. It was widely planted since the Oidium in 1850s, and in 50s and 60s, I think before even Luis Pato started making wines, it was fairly easy to sell Baga. Portugal had its colonies, and it was quite easy. In the 60s and 70s, the plantings were about 90% of Bairrada was consisted of Baga. So it was quite a lot. And then in 1974, after that, Portugal lost its colony, and Alentejo came in, and it became a little bit more challenging. So,
but Alentejo arrived to the Portuguese landscape in the 90s. In the 90s, there were some producers, some very good producers in Alentejo, but there were the exception. Alentejo turned stronger. With the new approach to the new world, the approach new world style, because it was a new region in general, was a new region, even being a very, very old region, because they do the wines in amphora, in clay pots. So this is very Roman. But during the Salazar time, Alentejo was forbidden to plant grape varieties. It was to produce wheat. So was not to produce wine. And Alentejo, the wines from Alentejo received the honor to be welcome to the Portuguese market at the beginning, to the Portuguese market on the 90s. Okay. But Bairrada and down were considered in the middle of 19th century, in 1866, by Antonio Augusto de Aguiar, were considered the two great regions after Douro. He was considered that Douro was the top because it was producing port, but Bairrada and down because were the regions where the wine could age for more time, could show the secondary flavors, could show the evolution flavors. So the commentators were saying that Bairrada was the second great region in Portugal in quality, after Douro, of course, after Douro Port.
Okay, and also I think one thing people should understand is in the 2000s the plantings of Baga declined, and some vines are even abundant. And today, just to finalize the historical overview, today, Luis, my record says that Baga accounts for 35% of the plantings in Bairrada. Is that correct?
Imagine, lost 55% of the area. As Bairrada lost the area too, because you need to understand that Bairrada, the wines from Bairrada and from Baga were used in Portugal for the blenders to blend with wines from other regions, and Bairrada was the base of the biggest wine companies in Portugal that were blending wines from down, from Tejo, from Douro, from Bairrada, to be shipped to Africa, to the colonies. So at that time, for the colonies, it was not important to the refinement of the quality, was important quantity. And as at that time, the ideas of chemical control of the sanitation of the wines, meaning pH. Baga was fantastic to add pH to the wines from other places, and it was something that the blenders, the big companies, were using to acidify, to give some more complexity, or some more, no, complexity was not important at that time, to add acidity instead to use tartaric acid. So it was that was the reason, because only after the 1979, Bairrada was demarcated. And was demarcated, it's funny because was demarcated over Baga wines, the wines that were in the cellars of the big companies, separated from the wine that was sold in bulk for the colonies.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I got questions here. Luis, I had messages today. People were joining us from, obviously, from Brazil and Portugal, but also as far away as Russia and India. So we have a really interesting. Thanks for your questions. I got a question from Gilto, which I've dotted down, and we'll go through them in a minute. Luis, last time I was in Bairrada, I was a bit concerned about the price of the grape. It was quite low in 2017. This year it's gone up a little bit. It's still 45 cents per kilo. And could this endanger the financial sustainability of Baga producers? And in our opinion, what could be done? What should be done to improve the situation?
You see, when you said before that in the 2000 there were 90% Baga domination in Bairrada, and now only 35, means that Baga lost 55%. And the reason was exactly the price of the grapes. The grapes were low priced, and the old people, because the owners were old people, that is disappearing. Now it's necessary to pass from the small plots to bigger plots to turn more economically the Baga production. And also, we are usually in Bairrada and all around the world, all the people believes that Baga is red wine. But Baga is not only red wine. Baga is red wine, and this sparkling wine. And the sparkling wine can be the the
The
product.
cash cow.
Yes,
We call it in English the cash cow, or the bread and butter, to pay the bill.
Yeah, to pull the Baga image, because for sparkling we can produce 15 tons, as in champagne, not too much. Instead to produce 6 tons maximum, 4 tons maximum. If you are looking to produce a great red wine from Baga, so you produce less expensive and can be mechanized. That is also to reduce the cost. So I believe that the future for Bairrada will be Baga with the volume from sparkling wine and with the uniqueness from red wines from Baga.
Good. I think you already answered part of the question that people asked. Thank you. I'm just going to talk very briefly about the Baga itself. It's got small berries and some books, and I think it's wrong, but they call it medium, even thick skin. Baga's got very thin skin. It's quite late ripening, hence the risk of rot. It prefers well-exposed sites. We'll talk about terroir sites in a minute.
With a good drainage.
With good drainage, especially the hillside. But I think probably the biggest challenge is vigorous. It's quite vigorous. But one thing people may not know, and even I was surprised when I was when I learned this a few years ago, there are, Luis can confirm this, but there are around 400 clones of Baga. Is that right?
Yes, because the Baga selection is a muscle selection. There are a lot of clones from Baga. And the problem, the Portuguese are people that doesn't study well enough, then to look to do some research to improve the quality of their products. We are a product from the nature. We use the clones that are our heritage. Of course, it's better to have a few clones, not 400 clones, than only one clone, because they are different. They can supply different tastes, different flavors, and they can complete the others. But 400 are too much, of course. It started a selection from Baga 30 years ago. Imagine, only 30 years. To have a good selection is necessary 1 century, imagine. But now this selection was interrupted because the Portuguese government don't support the researchers that are studying that are doing this selection. And this selection maybe is not done in Bairrada. That is the premium place for the Baga. Okay. Portuguese power question.
Okay, thank you. There's a lot of comments here. People saying hello to you from Moscow. Hello, Roman, Claudio. So many people from all over. Tiago, hello to you. Luis, now I hope you're going to be able to answer this succinctly, because we have a lot of questions to do, but it's a very difficult questions. Can you give me an idea of the evolution of what happened in the vineyard in the last 25 years? What has been the evolution of Baga?
What was the change from old vineyards to new plantations? New plantations are trellised in rows, are planted in rows, and the old vineyards were planted in a supported by a cane or by a wooden piece to support, because they were very high, to avoid the problem from the frost, because we are close to the ocean and we have edge, because the climate warming is changing that kind of things. We had a lot of frost, and the pruners were putting up the vines. And the vines, as they were supported by a piece of wood or cane, were conducted in three-dimensional system that was very good for the grape variety. Now, as we are using in two dimensions, almost two dimensions way, we need to do a better treatment in the vineyard to take off one part of the bunches that now are over the other ones that was not was happening before. But this is an adoption to the new system, because to mechanize, we need to plant in rows, not crazy as they were planted 100 years ago.
Okay, thank you. There was a question. If you're planting a vineyard, is there one clone that you would recommend? Is that one clone you consider the best?
No, we don't know which is the best. We have maybe now we have 20 clones selected. There are some ones that can produce smaller berries. There are some ones that produce more sugar. There are some ones that produce more acidity. So, and the blend of these 20 clones will be the best. I am a supplier from Baga clones. Imagine, we have certification. So we have some vineyards planted by me with the best clones.
Okay.
Certified.
Okay, so we're talking about different canopy management, better clones, and so on. I'm not going to talk about soils yet, but in terms of improvement quality, how much has the global warming helped Baga?
A lot, because Baga is a grape variety with a lot of acidity. Is a late ripening grape. To give you an idea, imagine Pinot Noir can achieve the ripeness in 90 days after the flowering in Burgundy. In Burgundy, I'm speaking about the origin. Baga needs 110 days. That means 20 days more than Pinot Noir. And for that reason, our problem with Baga was the rain in September. Because at that time there are hydric stress, because we need to have hydric stress to achieve a good ripeness. But if comes the rain, it depends the kind of soil where you have the Baga planted. If you have on sunny soil, will be terrible, because 2 days after, you have rotted one part of the bunches are rotten. If you have the bag on chalky clay soil, you need to attend for 1 week, if the rain follows, to have problems. That is the reason, because in the old time, the people were saying, Baga is great on chalky clay soil. They didn't know why.
Yeah, I think this is people who don't know. Sand is good for white varieties, especially Social or Bical. Not ideal for Baga. Maria Gomez also is good for whites. I think granite also, even outside, I'm talking about maybe in down, is also it takes water too quickly. It's not ideal, especially for a late ripening variety. Granite is not great. And the variety itself prefer clay and limestone. As Luis explained, it takes 4 or 5 days for the plant to assimilate the water, so it's less chance of the fruit bursting and getting rot. So this is the main reason for it. If I ask you, Luis, what is I think you mentioned earlier, but what is the ideal terroir for Baga? We know a climate limestone in hillside.
Now, I'm clear with you, Diesel. I have Baga planted on the boss kind of soils. But on sunny soil, I have the only plantation that I have on sunny soil is with ungrafted vines. because sandy soil prevents the phylloxera attacks. Okay, and but what happens? This Baga, that is my top wine, is my fantasy wine, and can achieve a good ripeness on sandy soil because I can pick before the rain, because the yield is so small, so small, so small that it achieves the ripeness, the polyphenolic ripeness, before the other ones. It achieves the polyphenolic ripeness at the same time as the white grapes on sandy soil. Of course, on chalky clay soil is different. We are more free. We have more freedom to keep the bunches on the vines for a longer time. So to achieve a better ripeness. Of course, I manage also to achieve a better ripeness even a little bit earlier than my neighbors, because I do something strange for the locals when I started to do it in 30 years ago. That is the green harvest. I do green harvest better. I was doing green harvest. Now I am not doing green harvest. I am doing two pickings. The first picking, when the grapes are ripe for sparkling wine, and I do Baga sparkling wine. The second picking, 1 month later, the left bunches, usually 50% or even 30%, I can do the wine with riper grapes. So, and I can smooth the tannins on Baga, because the tannins from Baga are tannins like Nebbiolo, sometimes like Pomar in Burgundy too. You have Pinot Noir is not so easy as the people imagine. Sometimes it's strong. The Pinot Noir that age for a long time are wines with a tannic structure very, very strong that we feel in the mouth. And the Baga is a little bit the same, because Baga maybe 3,000 years ago was the same grape variety as you know now as Nebbiolo in Barolo, Pinot Noir in Burgundy, in Chino Madro in Macedonia, so and Baga in Bairrada, and these grape varieties, even coming from the same original grape variety. This is my theory. Even coming from the same grape variety, adopted the place, were fermented by the place because they are there for centuries, and only centuries can adopt the grape variety to the nature. If it was not good for the nature in Bairrada, for the Bairrada nature, we had no Baga. So this is my theory, because sometimes Baga remembers. Can remember, it's like a little bit Pomar, like a little bit Barolo. We are more civilized now than Chino Madro in Macedonia, but 20 years ago, Baga wines were like the Chino Madro from Macedonia. Pay attention.
I have we have people here from joining from Ireland, from Poland, from north of Brazil. So everyone is welcome. There was a really good, interesting comparison from Roma in Moscow. He said, maybe quickly, can you see the similarities between Baga and Ramisco? Because high acid, firm tannins, there is some similarities, no?
Yes, a little bit. There are some similarities, but the big similarity is, is the ocean very close with the Boss wines, with Boss regions. Of course, Ramisco Polar is over the ocean. Bairrada is not over the ocean. We are 20 kilometers far from the ocean, but we have the same influence. We have why we keep good acidity in Baga, in Bairrada, natural acidity, because we have a cool climate. We have a cool climate. Sorry. we have a cool climate, but we have especially cool nights. Why? Because the temperature from our ocean, Atlantic, is no more than 16, 17 degrees centigrade during the summer. So the nights are influenced by the temperature of the ocean. I give you an example. Bordeaux has an ocean hotter than in Bairrada. And in Arcachon, you have 6 to 7 degrees more the temperature of the water, the ocean, than in Bairrada. So we have cooler nights than in Bordeaux. To give you an image, that is the reason because we keep the natural acidity. Because if you have cool nights, the acidity is not destroyed. I give you an example. 16 vintage was not normal vintage in Bairrada, and we have hot nights. So 16 vintage is very easy to sell because we have less acidity than it is usual. It's a good example how the influence of the night temperature can reduce or not the acidity in the grapes and of course in the wines. When we speak about acidity, the acidity can be added, but when you don't add acidity, is my case. Of course, it's my case because I work with Baga. If I was working with Tinta Barroca, it was not possible, even in Bairrada. But with Baga, it's possible because it's natural acidic. This is the influence of the ocean is very important. And in Ramishko is a little bit the same thing.
There was someone, Carl, I think it's from Brazil, Carlos, hello, asking for the altitude. It's not. I think altitude is not so much a factor. I think it's more to do with the cool nights. But what is the altitude that we're talking about on average where you are, Luis?
No, we are 80 to 120 meters over the sea level.
So it's
not too much.
altitude.
We have an altitude as in Bordeaux. It's flat. Is the small hills, not too hilly,
Okay. Luis, I've got another provocative question for you. Is Baga a good variety? You talk about Pinot Noir earlier on. Is Baga a good variety to express terroir?
Yes, of course. In Bairrada, if you drink Baga, a pure Baga, I'm speaking about pure Baga, from Cantanhede sub-region, or if you taste Bairrada from Ancash region, or from Ois Dubai region, they taste different. They taste very different. It's the same chocolate clay soil and this same Baga. So this is what is this terroir? I give you my example. In '95, I started to do 2 wines with pure Baga from 2 different vineyards. The both ones with chocolate clay soil. One distant from the other, 2 kilometers. 2 kilometers, not too much. And the wines are totally different. If you taste Vinha Pan and you taste Vinha Barrosa, they are totally different. And made with Baga by the same winemaker and same kind of soil. Of course, I'm clear with you. Barrosa is from very old vines. Pan is not from very old vines. But in Pan, I do a reduction, first picking, to leave only 30% of the bunches, to regulate the yield at the same level of Vinha Barrosa. And the wines are still different.
Somebody wants some more details. You mentioned, okay, Carlos asked again, you talk about 2 kilometers away and different wines. We talk about soils. But is there any other factors like soils, like vegetation, like microclimate?
Yes. Now, what
is the difference?
Microclimate.
Great question.
Vegetation is correct. It's a good question, a fantastic question, because the Vinha Barrosa is surrounded by pine trees and eucalyptus. And this is very important because the eucalyptus supply the minty nose that you can find in Barrosa every year. And you can find more stronger if when we pick is wetter. The day is wetter. It's funny because it carries the flavor from the forest that is deposited on the skins of the berries. And when we ferment, we have the influence from the forest around. So it's very important, the influence of the forest, the vegetation around for example, sometimes at Vinha Pan we find some minty, truly minty, because there are minty planted naturally in the rose, in the middle of the rose. Is a natural vegetable that we find, and it influences the flavor from the wine. Of course, this is the terroir Is exactly that. Is the kind of soil, the profile of soil, the kind of soil profile of soil where it is planted, the deepness of the roots, and the influence from the vegetation around wood, or even vegetables, truly vegetables.
Luis, what's the future for Baga and for Barada in terms of is this, going forward? Is there a system of like Premier Cru, Grand Cru, or sub-regions in 20, 30 years time? What is your opinion? What's the future?
Unfortunately, we have not the heritage from the Burgundian monks. The monks stayed here for not so long time, much less time than they stayed in Burgundy. And in Burgundy, they were the University of Burgundy. They selected, they had time to select the best places. In general, the people knows which are the best places from their vineyards, from their, but is very influenced by themselves. So it turns more difficult. But we know that by rather now, immediately you can subdivide in sub-regions. This is easy to show. In the future, that is the thing that I started to do when I started to do 25 years ago, the single vineyard wines of Baga, 2 different places, 2 different wines. But this will be the first the Grand Cru, or the first Cru, or first Gross, or what you maybe Grand Cru is better, because I prefer the Burgundian approach than the Bordeaux approach. I'm more Burgundian than Bordeaux.
There are some questions coming up on winemaking. We're going to move to winemaking in a minute. Thank you, Carlos.
Carlos Manson is putting a good, interesting question. Carlos Manson.
Yeah, Carlos
about natives. Yes, I tell you that on reds I never used other yeast than the natural.
Okay.
Never used. And now in the whites I am using since 18 vintage, because imagine I discovered that the local yeasts are better for my wines than this that I were buying from I don't know from where, and I don't pay. It's much better. But reds never use other yeast than the local yeast. I do a strong aeration to improve the growth of the natural yeast, the yeast that come on the skins, on the Baga skins, to improve the population and to produce a lot of young yeasts to ferment slowly. I use another thing, but I don't recommend to other people. On Baga, I don't use sulfites during fermentation, but this I don't recommend to anyone. I do it because I do the wine from my vineyards. So I know the history from my vineyards, and I know the quality of the bunches that are arriving to the winery. During the harvest, I need to be there to look the grapes. And I don't use sulfites. I use, but you can ask me, but you don't use, you never use sulfites. It depends. For reds, I have one wine without sulfites from Baga, because Baga is very good to produce wines without sulfites. Do you know why? Because Baga has
low pH,
aesthetic, low pH, good tannins. So the tannins prevent oxidation. The natural acidity prevents the evolution. Of course, the wine matures faster than the wine with sulfites. But as I was telling you, during fermentation I don't use. But after the fermentation, after the malolactic fermentation, I use the 40 milligrams of sulfites to keep the wine in wood. And that is the reason, because all my red wines are wines with low sulfites. Some ones without sulfites, mainly with low quantity of sulfites. Less sulfites than organic wines. We have 40 40 milligrams of total sulfites instead of what is regulated by the law, 70 milligrams of sulfates in the organic wines. We are more organic than the organic wines.
Luis, we're having a good conversation. I'm going to ask you a quick question now, and I'm going to show you guys what we're going to be tasting. Those are the 3 wines that I'm going to be talking about. So you have an idea what we're working with.
Yeah. Good idea.
Okay.
Good idea.
So, Luis, I'm going to taste the first wine. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you taste much wine from your neighbors?
Yes, Vadio, I taste it. I agree with you. Tavares, I never tasted. I tasted the Baga wine from Val do Bião. That is very interesting. I tasted the supposed Baga wine from Alentejo, because it was smelling more Alentejo than Baga. And of course from down too. I remember the old wines from Cabo São João, the old wines that were coming from down, that were from mainly from Passarella. And Passarella had a lot of Baga in their blend. And sometimes when I was tasting the wine, the blender put some Baga from Bairrada in the blend. No, the Baga was from down, not from Bairrada. But the correct from Baga was there.
I didn't know this property. This is a property that is dated from 1857, and they have vineyards in the Douro and also Trás-os-Montes. You mentioned the wine is actually made by Paulo Nunes, who's the winemaker of the year. He joined us for my first life.
From Passarella too.
And this was planted, as I understand, it was planted in 2012 by accident. I think they wanted to plant Touriga, and then they didn't have enough Touriga, so they say, oh, I have some Baga, and they planted Baga. So it's a very small plot, but it's hand harvested. Great care, put in 20 kilo boxes. It's crushed. Paulo, I spoke to him this morning, exchanging messages. He uses a little bit of stems depending on the ripeness, between 20 and 50% of the stems. The technical sheet says that they do a little short pre-fermentation maceration. And knowing Paulo, it's very, very gentle extraction. He presses before the end of fermentation, and the fermentation finishes in barrel, and an old 225 barrels, I believe, and it stays there for 12 months. And this is Palácio dos Távoras, very rare Baga from Trás-os-Montes.
I didn't know that Palácio dos Távoras had Baga. I'm clear with you.
Thank you, Sophia, who's helping us from Wines of Portugal. This is what we're tasting. It's from the Costa Boa family. That's correct. From
yes, I'm looking here. Yeah.
But if this was in a blind taste, I could not tell you this is from Bairrada or from. It's got firm structure, a lovely texture, very, very lean, fresh acidity. And the fruit profile is very much like you expect from Bairrada, dark fruits, some earthy notes. So it's a lovely example of Baga from outside Bairrada. Luis, why isn't Baga more planted outside Bairrada? Why?
No, because Baga is not easy to plant in different climates. It's a little bit like Pinot Noir. You can see Pinot Noir around the world, but only in good places it can produce good things. As the same thing with Nebbiolo. Of course, now Baga is being spread in Portugal, because in some regions they need Baga to acidify, a little bit like the old people, to acidify their other grape varieties. It is being planted in Alentejo. It was planted in Tejo, because in Tejo it was producing very well. And Tejo is very affected by the oidium, and Baga resists well against the oidium. And of course down. And now the people in Douro is planting more and more, because in the old time they planted Baga, but of course they were naming it as Tinta Red from Bairrada. Tinta Bairrada. Red from Bairrada. So Baga is not only in Bairrada, but of course I am from Bairrada, and for me it's the best place. But it's the best place because we have chalky clay soil, not because if we had no chalky clay soil, it was not the best. The chalky clay soil is very important. It's a little bit as with Pinot Noir. It's a little bit the same. If you plant Pinot Noir on sandy soil, it's not so. It's more flinty. It's less smoky as it is on chalky clay soil. The character from chalky clay soil is very important for Baga, for Pinot, for Nebbiolo, for other ones.
Now now we're back in Bairrada. I'm tasting now Grande Vadio. It's I'd say it's a lovely wine. It's made by
15 is very good. 15 is very good. Are you tasting 15? Are you tasting 15?
Yeah, 15. Yeah.
It's very good.
It's a wonderful wine. I know Luis Patron for a long time. He worked in Esporão from 2003 to 2016, and he started this project officially in 2005. I think he did a harvest before that, but that was only it wasn't commercial.
Self-consumption.
Yeah, self-consumption. It's a small property. It's only 7.5 hectares, but it's different parcels. Some convert, some quite young plants. They planted in 2009. But he also had some old vineyards that he keeps. I think an old parcel. He keeps for a lot for source of genetic material. Is a vineyard planted in 1932.
No.
Also,
mass selection.
This is a clay and limestone soil. And I'm very grateful to him. I called him a couple of days ago. He was driving the motorway. He pulled out on the motorway, and we had a talk about this. So I know about this wine. I knew him anyway. I know the wine, but I want to talk about this wine specifically. So this is a very low yield, 43 hectoliters per hectare. It's very low. He crops low, and hand harvested. He crushed, fermented in very small beans. Everything separately. Used a vertical press, and the wine, curiously, spends only 12 months in French oak, large barrels, 500 liters. So he prefers to give shorter time in oak and a longer time in bottle. So the wine spends a minimum 2 years in bottles, which is curious. I think
it's too big a feira. It's too big a feira.
It's really a wonderful. It is Baga, but it's polished. It's lovely. It's got lovely dark fruits. It's brown. It's drinking. I think you can actually drink this wine. It's an accessible wine to drink now, but it goes wonderfully with food. And here's a question from Carlos while I'm talking about this wonderful one. What is a typical dish to pair Baga? Come on, Luis, this is easy for you. What is that?
If Carlos comes to Bairrada, needs to drink Baga with roasted suckling pig.
And in Brazil, because he's in Brazil, he's from what would
if he comes to our winery, he can try Baga with magret de canal.
Okay. Because I missed a question. I just going back and another question, a great question. In terms of co-fermenting Baga with something else, have you done it? I'm sure you've done everything, but
of course I do. Now, it's a good question. It's a good question to say, because imagine that I use for Pato Rebel, for my label Pato Rebel, 5% of Bical grapes in co-fermentation with Baga to soften the tannins and to lift the flavor. But imagine, I do a red wine with 94% of Maria Gomes grapes and only 6% of red skins from Baga. This is truly co-fermenting, but co-ferment is a red wine, but from white grapes.
The other way around. And what color? What's the final color?
Red. Darker darker than 95% of Pinot Noir.
Wow.
I need to show you. I need to show you.
Fabulous.
No, I do. In this case, I do a strange thing. I use the white grape, the Maria Gomes juice, to be fermented with red skins, with Baga red skins, to do a red wine from white grape. But I do also orange wine from the juice, from the skins, the juice from the skins that I use to do red wine, with white skins from Maria Gomes, and ferment it together, and it turns orange. It's joking. I'm joking.
Please, no, I want to ask you. I shouldn't ask this question, but we are among friends. I want to ask you anyway.
Yeah.
You do some crazy stuff. I know you do wine for every one of your grandchildren.
My
crazy stuff.
Yeah. It's true.
Be honest with us. Have you? I'm sure this is. Have you made something you said, "Oh, this is absolutely rubbish. I cannot. It's a mistake." Has it happened many times? Has it happened?
What is happening? Sorry.
When you do your crazy experiments and it goes wrong.
When it goes wrong, I change the line. You know, or I blend with the wines, or and yes, because I do small experiments, and after. I do step by step, you know. I was trained in an Anglo-Saxonic way, so I do step by step. I experiment, I try small quantities, but quantities enough to understand that it's possible to repeat. And so, if it's not okay, I tell you, this year I did a wine from Baga, from Baga. We are speaking about Baga, demanded by demand from my daughter Maria João, and she wanted, because we had a wine that we tried this year that is a pet nut from Baga, from first speaking, with only 7.5, 8.5 alcohol, that we sold all the wine to United States, to a Brazilian friend of us, client of us, that sells in United States. And when he tasted the wine, he wanted more. And we tried to do more, but the grapes were too ripe to do it. And I tried to do, but it didn't went well. And after, imagine, we passed the red juice, the pink juice, to almost white, with hyperoxygenation, and after we added some berries of Baga to supply more color. First, I take off the color. After, I supplied more color, and the wine is a wine that we did by mistake. But wine is funny. It is like a claret from the old time of claret, from the 1700th century, when the claret, the true claret, was claret, not so dark in color as it is now. It's quite claret. We will taste this year when you come. When you come visit me, we can taste this wine. It's a funny wine. Wonderful. It's very light. It's very light with no extraction, almost no extraction. The wines for the young generation. The young generation like this kind of wine with 12 degrees, 11 and a half, 12 degrees, no more.
Please, now we're going to talk about your wine. We have 10 minutes left.
It's 2008. It's 2008. Vinhas Velhas.
2008 is absolutely wonderful.
It's too young. It's too young. When you taste,
I disagree with you. It's you know, Luis, I like Pinot, and this wine is it has the fruit still, and it's beginning to develop complexity. I like the wine when it has both, and this wine for me, it has a bit of both, and I think it's sublime. So tell us, what is the correct way to handle Baga once it comes in the vineyard? Because there are many different styles. Some people do stems, some people use stems, some people partially use stems.
It's a good question. It's a good question. I usually, my secret, that is not my secret, is the reduction, the yield reduction that I do in the vineyard. This is very important because I can turn the wines softer. You can achieve a better polyphenotic ripeness, but the important is you put in the lagar, in the bin. For example, I use bins, not lagars. I use bins to macerate. And this year, to give you an idea, this year, to celebrate the 40 years of my first wine, I did a wine from the only vineyard that I used, that I survived from the old time, that is Vinha Barrosa, and I did only 300 liters, was a teeny quantity. And as I saw that the grapes were so ripe, so well written, the stalks were so well written, I did as I did 40 years ago with stalks. But all the other wine was made without stalks. Exception, another one that I have, that is Vinha das Valadas, that is from ungrafted vines on chalky clay soil, that needs the tannins from the stalks. And I put 20% of stalk. I do without stalks, I do 20% of stalks, I do 100% of stalks. It depends what kind of product. If it is to age for more time, it's better to put some stalks, because to supply some tannins, and when stalks are ripe, of course. But there are no rule. If you want to do the wine softer, you need to do without stalks and with not too much pumping over. I do only once a day pumping over. In the old time, I was doing twice a day pumping over, and the wines were more tiny. So with Baga, it's not necessary to put stalks. You can put stalks or not put stalks. You can put more tannic or less tannic, depending the time of maceration and the strength of maceration.
Luis, what is the relationship between Baga and oak, in your opinion?
Baga needs oak. Baga in Bairrada needs oak.
New old oak, small barrel, large barrel, cast. What are you talking about?
Needs 1 year enough. Sometimes I use 2 years. It depends the vintage. If the vintage is greener, you need more time in oak. If the vintage is softer, is riper, you need less times in oak, because the oak, what supplies to the Baga, softens the short tannins from Baga, so turns the Baga easier to drink, younger. Okay, this is the as it does in Bordeaux. Is not when I see the use of new oak in hot climates, for me, it's strange, but I am a chemical engineer. I don't understand that kind of things.
That's a great point. There's so many good questions.
Carlos is putting a good question, because now I am using bigger barrels. I am using food, like they say the French, tonnage, with 2,000 liters capacity. That is better. It's better for the regulation of the change of temperature. It's much better.
My gosh, there's so many good questions. I think we should need about 3 lives to cover all those questions.
Yeah.
Please,
was very traditional to use large tunnels in Bairrada. This was the tradition.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We have 5 minutes. What, in your opinion, is necessary for Baga to get more international recognition?
I believe that Baga must be supported by the Baga Sparkling. because Baga Sparkling, you can produce a lot of Baga Sparkling, a lot for the Portuguese size, with very good quality, very good quality. We are refining the quality because the people is learning to do better and better. To do Baga Sparkling wine, I am doing from 90 vintage, but the people in general is doing from the 5 years ago, since 5 years ago. And I believe that in next 5 years, the Baga Sparkling will get a great success, especially abroad, outside of Portugal, not in Portugal, because can be compared with what is in the world landscape. And when we compare, the price is not expensive. So I believe that Baga Sparkling is important to be sold mainly abroad. And this ask attention for the grape variety, and after to ask attention for the grape variety with the big volume of sparkling wine at a better price, we can show top wines from Baga, red wines from Baga. From ungrafted vines, from chalky clay soil, from very well concentrated, from very old vines, and so on and so on.
You mentioned earlier there was a question that popped up earlier about sparkling wine making in Baga. It's more or less like champagne, is it not?
It's a classic method. It's like champagne. It's second fermentation bottle. But exactly as it is made with the champagne method or with the classic method, needs 3-5 years at least, the Baga. I'm speaking about Baga, to show the real thing, their character, the complexity from the grape variety, complexity that it gains being stocked on the lees, like in champagne, Sure. Of course, Bairrada has also another grape variety that can be interesting to do in a Charma method, that is Maria Gomes, to compete with Prosecco also. This is the riches from Bairrada, but the problem is the Bairrada people does go abroad and does taste the other wines. That is one of the big problems from Bairrada. But it's moving. The new generation, the young generation, is looking for what is around them in the world.
Luis, I want to thank everyone. We have 2 minutes. It's been a great talking to you. I have one final question. It's just been great talking to you. Thanks everyone for the amazing questions today. We have questions. Thank you from all over the world. So thank you for all of you. I'm going to give you 1 minute. I have the privilege to have your 2008 in my glass, and it's wonderful. It's really tasting superbly today. But you have 1 minute to tell a consumer that you go into a lift, and without any wine, you just have to talk in 1 minute. Why should they drink Baga?
So they must drink Baga to discover something different that they never tasted, because it's so rare. Only the Portuguese kept almost all the Baga for them. No, all the people around the world needs to taste Baga at least once in their life, because Baga is not better than Cabernet, not better than Pinot, not better than Nebbiolo, not better than Syrah also. Can show its uniqueness, and this is the most important thing. And very important too is this very good match with food.
Luis, it's been fantastic talking to you as always. Thank you for people who posted messages. Rosani, I saw a lot of your messages. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. It's been fantastic, Luis. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best for everyone. With good wine.
Thank you.
Thank you.